Eccoci di nuovo live dal Faris Film Festival di Udine, sempre dal visionario, naturalmente. Oggi, dopo aver parlato di cinema filippino e esserci collegati con Manila, ci colleghiamo di nuovo con Hong Kong, perché l'argomento della discussione è proprio la sezione che il Farista dedica quest'anno ai nuovi talenti del cinema dell'ex colonia britannica e per discutere, per introdurre i film che stiamo vedendo e quelli che ancora vedremo nei prossimi giorni all'interno del festival, ne parliamo con Kevin Ma. Hi Kevin!
Buongiorno, Sabrina.
Ah, wow, your Italian is getting better and better.
Yes, I practiced that.
Where are you speaking from? Your house in Hong Kong?
Yeah. I was thinking about going outside because I'm about a 10-minute walk from the harbor, but it's kind of hot and I'm worried about the rain, so I decided to stay inside today.
And where is your house in Hong Kong? Which part of the city?
It's on the east side of Hong Kong Island. So, I mean, I remember last year we talked when I was in Tin Hau under the bridge where Divergent was shot. I
Yeah.
actually live near. If we talk about Hong Kong cinema locations, um, I live near the part. There's a scene in Suk Suk where they sit on the side of the harbor. So I live very close to that area, and also a couple of months ago there was a huge set that was built for the Felix Chong's new film, Once Upon a Time in Hong Kong, the one that stars Andy Lau and Tony Leung. They built a set there for the film. So if we talk about Hong Kong cinema locations, that would be where my area is.
Oh my God. It looks really, really exciting.
Yeah, all
Anyway,
of Hong Kong is a film studio. Yeah, the whole city.
it's really true. It's really true. And we miss Hong Kong a lot. But today we are going to talk about the new talents in Hong Kong film industry. And we are going to do that because we decided to create a section inside the festival lineup dedicated to the first time or the second time directors in Hong Kong nowadays. And we are doing that together with the Hong Kong International Film Festival, Create Hong Kong, and Hong Kong Trade Economic Office. And you, Kevin, you were great because you conducted in Hong Kong a lot of video interview, which are now available for everybody are interested in those ones in our YouTube channel. But let's talk. Let's start to talking about one of the most interesting films we selected, Time by Ricky Ko. Would you like to introduce that movie to our audience?
Yes. So Time is a directorial debut of Ricky Ko. Yesterday, I know Tim talked about Just One Day, which is the directorial debut of Erica Lee, who is a longtime writer for Herman Yao. Well, Ricky Ko has actually been a longtime assistant director of Herman Yao. So there's that Herman Yao connection there. But this time, he's working with Gordon Lam, who you will see in Limbo and also in Hand Roll Cigarette. This time, he steps behind the scenes. He is the producer of the film. This is his third time producing a film. And he's also, for the first time, co-writing the script with a young writer named Ho Ching Yi. So that's already sort of a selling point for audiences. But the biggest selling point is, of course, the two leading actors. You have Patrick Say, who is just a legend in the Hong Kong film industry. Of course, you probably, if you've seen a classic Hong Kong film, you've definitely seen a Patrick Say film. He's 84 years old now, so it's quite daring for him to take on this role as an aging hitman. And his co-star is Patrina Fung, who you see on screen right now. She's only 66 years old, but she's actually been in the industry for more than 60 years because she started her career as a child star. She was nicknamed the Shirley Temple of Hong Kong cinema, and she actually retired from acting full time in the mid 90s. So it's very, very rare to see her act in a film. So the two of them, they star this duo team with Lam Shit, as you see on the screen, as a team of assassins. And there's a sort of the demand for from neglected elderly people for them to end their lives. So they hired these team of assassins to help them out. So yeah, it's a very dark concept, but Gordon as writer and Ricky Ko as the director, they balance it out with a lot of sort of dark humor, and it turns into this sort of lighter comedy about the old and the young and this sort of generation clash. And so I watched the film actually at the world premiere, the Hong Kong Film Festival, and the audiences had so much fun with this film. It's a very funny film despite the very heavy topic, and it's quite a special film.
Definitely. And actually, talking about Gordon Lam, it looks like he is now a key person in the film industry in Hong Kong.
Oh
What
yeah,
do you think?
he's kind of this year's MVP in terms of Hong Kong cinema. So he did Hand Roll Cigarette, which Tim talked about yesterday. He's in Limbo, and then he backed Hand Roll Cigarette by acting the film for free for no pay because of these a lot of these low budget films. They can't afford to pay sort of very A-list actors, like Gordon. So these actors they help out by doing it for no pay, and he's the key person sort of behind this project and just pushing, sort of doing something for Hong Kong cinema. This isn't the type of film that would get into the mainland Chinese market, so it's not a co-production. So he's just really doing this to sort of help younger Hong Kong filmmakers, and we'll talk about. And of course, the film also stars Hong Kong younger actors, but I think we can talk about that a little bit later when we sort of gather all the other films together.
Right. And we have 7 feature films in our selection, plus one documentary, which is called Keep Rolling, and it's about movies and career of Han Hoi. It's directed by Man Lin Chung. Would you like to say something about this documentary, please?
Yes. So this film Keep Rolling is sort of a outlier with the other projects, because unlike the other directors, I think Man Yim Chung sort of didn't plan to become a director. He's a longtime art director and production designer. He's worked with some of the biggest filmmakers in the region. In fact, he's been a longtime collaborator of Anne Hui. He's worked with her for 20 years. And so he was working on the set of Our Time Will Come, which came out in 2016. And he was talking with his colleagues and thought about, he realized there weren't many documentaries about Hong Kong filmmakers. So just while working on this film, he picked up the camera and just started shooting, of course, with Anne Hui's permission. So over the course of 3 years, him and his crew of 2 other people, they just followed Anne. They interviewed her. They interviewed her friends, filmmakers, her family members as well. They took a long time to gather a lot of film clips to tell her story. And they realized that Anne Hui's story is very much sort of in parallel with Hong Kong cinema. And this film is quite rare because, as you see in the film, Anne is a very private person. Even though I think if you go to the Broadway Cinematheque, apparently she goes to the movies a lot there. But she's a very private person. She doesn't like to do a lot of publicity. She doesn't like to do a lot of interviews, as you see in the film. So because Man Yim Chung is a old friend of hers, so he got to go into her home, and she really opened up herself to him. And it's a very rare effort in that way. It gives us sort of unprecedented access to Anne Hui's life. So it's a very, I think it's a must see for any Hong Kong cinema fan.
Definitely must see. Another interesting title in our program is a different kind of movie from the other ones. Is Drifting, who had some international tensions because it was screened also in Rotterdam Film Festival. And it's directed by Jun Lee, that we hadn't the chance to meet in person, but for sure we will know more about this guy in the future, because I think he made a wonderful job. The main protagonist is Francis Ng. What do you think about this movie, Drifting, Kevin?
Yeah. So Julie, he's a very special young filmmaker. He's fiercely intelligent. He he's sort of an outcast in a way. His first two films, actually, including Drifting, didn't get the government funding that a lot of young directors get. He said himself in the interview that is because he tried and failed. He couldn't get those funding, but he managed to get very significant funding for his first two films. And he's fearlessly intelligent, doesn't always play by the rules. He was educated at Cambridge. Unlike a lot of this generation's filmmakers, he's foreign educated. And he likes to make films about, outcasts in society. So his first film, Tracy, was about a transgendered man. And here he's talking about this community of homeless people in Hong Kong and their fight for their rights. So even though he did emerge from the Fresh Wave Film Festival, like Chen King-long, who did Hand Rose Cigarette, he's very much a director who plays by his own rules. And here he tells a very raw, very socially conscious story about the plight of these people. But at the same time, he does it with a very, he does it like a journalist, because he encountered the real case behind the film as a student journalist during his university days. So he sort of captures these people's lives as sort of in a very journalistic way. So he doesn't, put any judgment on them. And I think this film is comparable to An Hui's Ordinary Heroes or Jacob Chern's Cage Man in terms of capturing the lives of society's outcasts. I think it's a very special film.
It's really, really true. And we will end today's section with another brand new title. We are going to show this one as a world premiere. The film is called Zero to Hero and directed by Jimmy Wong, which we know him very well. And the film hasn't been released in Hong Kong yet. Of course, this movie is talking about a special person for Hong Kong culture and Hong Kong sports world. Would you like to introduce that one as well?
Yes, so Zero to Hero is the biopic of So Wai, who is a Paralympic athlete. He was born with cerebral palsy, but he went to multiple Paralympic games and won gold medals for Hong Kong and broke world records. So it's an amazing story. And of course, for film buffs, this film is produced and starring Sandra Ng, who hasn't done a Hong Kong film, who doesn't do Hong Kong films quite a lot anymore. She sort of focused her career in mainland China doing co-production films. So here she is the star and the producer of the film. And of course, Jimmy Wang, he was a scriptwriter on several Pang Ho Chen films, and he also co-directed Lover's Discourse with Derek Zhang, who made Better Days, Oscar-nominated film Better Days.
Yeah.
So this is his first time as a solo director, and it's a very inspiring story. I think it's kind of that positive, real story of someone who really overcame the odds, and I think it's a story that Hong Kong audiences will really like, especially So Wai. He's quite famous here because of his accomplishments, and it's a very touching film because of Sandra's performance. And of course, the performance we should talk about is Leung Chung-han. He is a stage actor. This is his first film. He plays the adult version of So Wai, and this is what I want to talk about. This program is not just about sort of these emerging young directors, it's also giving a spotlight to emerging young actors. So, for example, Leung Chung-han, who was a stage actor, and this is his first film, he gives a really great performance here in this film. Drifting, you see Will Orr, who is the young man in that community. He did a lot of work on TV. I think this is one of his first films. Time, you have the girl Zhong Su-ying. She also, I think this is also one of her first films. And yesterday, the films that Tim talked about, you have Sugar Street Studio, you have a whole cast of young actors, up and coming actors, and of course, Hand Rose Cigarette, you also have Pepin Karma. So this program really gives the spotlight to both young filmmakers and also these young emerging actors as well.
Right. But would you like to tell us also something about the current situation of theaters in Hong Kong after the pandemic?
Right. So the cinemas here, we experienced 3 different shutdowns. So we didn't have any sort of major lockdown measures here, but a lot of these entertainment venues, including cinemas, were closed 3 different occasions in 2020. And the last shutdown happened for, I think it went on for about 4 months. So ended up skipping Christmas and Chinese New Year, which are both the 2 most lucrative time slots for film releases. So the cinemas finally opened, I think, in mid-February, and luckily it stayed open since. I think we've kept the pandemic under control since then. So cinemas have been operating normally with, I think, 75 capacity now. So film going has somehow mostly come back to normal, even though attendances hasn't exactly gone back to normal rate, obviously, because of both the capacity and the lack of a lot of sort of new product from America and from elsewhere. But we did have one major loss in the past year, which is the downfall of Yue Cinemas. It was one of the major, I think, 4 major cinema chains in Hong Kong. They had 7 or 8 cinemas across Hong Kong. So losing those cinemas was really a huge, left a really huge impact on the exhibition industry here in Hong Kong. But otherwise, other cinema chains have taken over most of the UA Cinemas locations, so they will be back with cinemas. So there will be cinemas opening. And I think as long as the products, the films keep coming, I think audiences will slowly return to cinemas. There's a holiday weekend coming up. I mean, tomorrow is July 1st. It's the anniversary of the handover. And there are a few big titles. And of course, throughout the entire summer, as film releases come back to normal, I think we'll see audiences go back to cinemas as well.
We are very happy to hear that because we really care about Hong Kong cinema. And we were at the same time very sorry to hear about UA cinemas closed down. But we hope, in a brighter future for Hong Kong cinema, that we can keep with this idea carrying on by the movie Zero to Hero to be positive and to be inspired by these amazing stories we can follow in our selection, Hong Kong selection this year. So, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to have this chat with us. I said we really miss you, and for sure we will speak about Hong Kong cinema also next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabrina. I miss you guys too. Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.